Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses as we continue with part 2, The Mystics of Islam from the Adepts in the Eastern Esoteric Tradition by Manly Palmer Hall, The Adepts in the Eastern Esoteric Tradition by Manly Palmer Hall, part 4. The Adepts, the Mystics of Islam, in the name of God, the Compassionate, the Merciful, the Quran. The prevailing spirit of Mediterranean Christianity during the 5th and 6th centuries AD resulted in the relentless persecution of nonconformists within the faith itself and those pagans who declined to become converts. To escape danger and embarrassment, Grecian teachers, together with the leaders and members of heretical Christian groups, sought refuge outside the temporal jurisdiction of the rising and expanding church. Many of these scholars, including Jewish and Syrian mystics, found the Arabian atmosphere congenial to study and meditation. They were honorably received, and their doctrines were tolerantly examined. This spirit of temperance toward learning resulted in the assembling of a brilliant constellation of learned men, who contributed powerfully to the glory of Baghdad, Alexandria, and other Muslim cities. The temperate atmosphere of Arabian culture, however, also led to disastrous complications. Fanatics of every degree also found asylum in the towns and villages of the desert. Most of these extremists had suffered in their own lands, and to their basic intensities were added psychological pressures and powerful personal animosities. Gradually, the dignity of Near Eastern living was seriously disturbed. Dr. Mengum summarizes the spiritual confusion among the Arab people, which undoubtedly inspired Mohammed, a sincere and naturally devout man, to instigate a sweeping program of theological reform. Arabia was the meeting place of heresies, heresium ferax, said one of the fathers in the 5th century. It would not have been easy to know where one stood amongst the Sabellians, the Docetes who denied Christ's human existence, regarding his body as a phantom, the Arians who denied his divinity, the Eutychians, the Jacobites, and the Monophysites who denied his double nature, the Nestorians who saw in him two persons, the Mariamites and the Collyridians who worshipped Mary, the anti-Dichomariamites who denied her perpetual virginity, the Judeo-Christian Nazarites and Ebionites, the anti-Jewish Marcionites, Gnostics, the Valentinians, the Basilidians, the Carpocratians, the Racusians, etc. There is an Abyssinian proverb which says that the Christians never agree except on one point: the birth of Christ. The region in which the faith of Islam had its origin was by no means an untutored or uncultured area. The people apparently belonged to the Semitic family, and the land was supposed to have been the allotment of Shem, the son of Noah. The inhabitants are physically a splendid type, distinguished for their clean, simple, abstemious habits, and the illnesses of Western civilization are almost unknown among them. This is pointed out by D.F. Warren, who visited the area at the time of the conflict between King Hussein and the Wahhabis under the leadership of Ibn Saud, Sultan of Nejd, 1916 to 1924. At an earlier date, Sir William Wilcox, consulting engineer to the Turkish government in Mesopotamia, had this to say of the happy state of affairs enjoyed by the natives of Arabistan: "Long may the Arabs keep to their simple and natural life in their native deserts and conserve a type of manhood and womanhood which does credit to the world. Few people could say, as I have heard these people say, that they know of no illness except the illness of death. If these people are so naturally fortunate, they are subject also to certain misfortunes. Their way of life has long been burdened with problems of physical survival. These people are agriculturists and sheep herders, and the need for water has brought these ancient vocations into dramatic conflict, as typified by the tragedy of Cain and Abel. The wise men of the desert say that if water for the land and the sheep could be assured, the brotherhood of man could come to the Hejaz. Government has also rested heavily upon these Arabs, even though rulership has seldom been tyrannical or oppressive. The citizens simply grow weary of leaders, good or bad, and most administrations are short-lived. The pious Muslim assumes that the centuries which preceded the birth of the Prophet were times of benightedness and ignorance. However, as has already been noted, this is not strictly true, except in the sense that a strong central spiritual leadership was lacking. It is noted that in earlier days, writing and poetry were encouraged as fine arts, eloquence was particularly admired, and annual assemblies and contests were held devoted to skill in poetry and oratory. Religion consisted of the worship of heavenly bodies and most uncomplicated idolatry. Arabia was not an uncultured region at the time of the birth of the Prophet, but actually heavy laden with philosophic speculations. Birmingham paints an interesting picture of the intellectual environment in which the faith of Mohammed arose. Every comer of the town, said a father of the church, is filled with discussion. Markets, clothing stalls, money changers and provision dealers. Do you want to change a gold piece? They begin to philosophize upon what is begotten and what is not begotten. Do you want to know the price of bread? They reply, the Father is greater than the Son. Do you ask if your bath is hot? The attendant tells you, the sun was created out of nothingness. It is evident that Arabia received into itself the doctrines and beliefs of many peoples. At least several of the sects known to have flourished there practiced philosophical disciplines, formed secret schools and colleges, gathered disciples, initiated their advanced students, and actually claimed to participate in the Adept tradition. This is not only clear from the historical orientation, but is proved by the later rise of mystical speculations among the Muslims themselves. They reveal their indebtedness to the same essential sources of knowledge that enriched Greece, Egypt, and the valley of the Euphrates. It was not against the democracy of true learning that Mohammed introduced his faith. He undoubtedly experienced in himself the need for a simple and direct religion that would relieve the faithful of the burden of distracting uncertainties. That such was actually the case may be gathered from a statement made by Muhammad's first cousin, Jafar bin Abi Talib, to the Negus of Ethiopia. He told this great sovereign that the people of Arabia were in the shadow of a strange kind of ignorance, worshipping idols and conducting themselves according to the concept of the survival of the fittest. In this emergency, God, the compassionate, the merciful, established among them a man of their own race who commanded them to worship one God, cast out superstition, shun vice, practice virtue, and in all things to be sincere, devout, charitable, and chaste. He caused them also to recognize the dignity of prayer, the goodness of sharing with the needy, and the self-discipline of fasting. Because this man was good and practiced his goodness in his own life, his people accepted him and believed in his mission. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can please consider donating to Wars of the Roses, links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.